My name is Masenyane Molefe. I'm Group Executive for Human Resources at PPS, that is Professionals Provident Society. The views I'm about to express here are my own and do not express PPS views. For us, sustainability is a big topic. It is about thinking long-term, both for the organization and for the staff. We want to make sure that our staff are ready, obviously, for the current roles and for the roles of the future. The world is changing at such an unprecedented rate that we are always looking at, do we have the right skills? Do we have the right skills for today, for 10 years' time, for 20 years' time? As much as we cannot predict the future, but we're trying very much to be up to date, current, both in the way we lead, in the organizational culture that we try to drive, to say, very aware of the world around us. So we bring that in a lot into our HR strategy. That's a loaded question. It is a lot of things that we do. Everything from we obsess about the people agenda at PPS because we are very aware that our business, being in the service industry, is very much a relationship business. So very aware of the link between people being happy at work and people growing, and how that is so directly correlated with the organization growing and thriving as well. So we're very obsessed about the whole employee value proposition. We do a lot of things for employees, with employees, and the very things that we do translate into how we service our members and how the organization continues to grow and thrive. A big one, a very big one. So again, another thing that we obsess about, to say how people present themselves when they come in, to work, wherever they work from, is very important for us, because how people are feeling on that day influences how they relate to their colleagues, to their managers, and to members. So we obviously want people to show up in their true selves, in their happy selves, in their optimistic selves, in their happy state. Happy people lead to happy customers. And we sincerely believe in that. So we do spend a lot of time making sure that our people are in a good, happy, and optimistic state about themselves and about the organization and about their jobs, and that they see the link between what they do and what we're trying to do as an organization. So sustainable leadership is about more than just short-term results, as I've said before. It's leaders who act with empathy, with integrity, and really about care about people, care from the heart about people. There's training to care for people, but I think we are very intentional about the people that we bring in, that it must be people who genuinely care about the people that they're going to lead, and care and are invested in their growth, because being invested in their growth leads to them growing, and therefore leads to the organization growing at the same time. So our HR policies shape everyday behavior, right? So whether we look at policies obviously that are fair, that are ethical, that are well governed, all the things that talk to the S part and G part of the ESG strategy. So we're very much linked and aligned and drive ESG priorities, particularly on the governance side, and in terms of how we treat our people. We align very much, obviously, and comply with all of the country's laws in terms of labor, our own policies, very much on the fair side, and doing the right thing is one of our values. So it's a big part of what we do and what we bring in the way we do and govern and run our HR policies. So we see inclusion as an ongoing commitment. It's about continuously listening to our employees, reviewing our practices, looking externally, both locally and globally, in terms of what other organizations are doing. We have a whole listening strategy, just going back to, how do we get feedback going up from the staff to influence the things that we do. We drive inclusion in a lot of ways where, we drive a message all the time to say we want employees to come as they are. We drive diversity. We thrive in diversity. We do not frown upon people being different. That's exactly what makes us this cocktail of who we are. That's exactly what makes this organization so special, because we are also different. And so we are also unique in our own ways. And that's the big part of what makes this a magical place of work. So yes, while we do obsess obviously about the short term, that would be your monthly results, quarterly results, annual results, we're always focused on long term. What is the impact of our decisions that we're making today in 5 years' time, 10 years, even 20 years? PPS is 85 years this year, so it's not a young organization, but very mindful always in everything that we do that we must leave an organization that it is going to outlive us, and it should outlive us. And all of us, when we leave, hopefully we are able to look back and smile and say, we did that. We are leaving this organization in a better space than we found it. So to a big extent, remember, sustainability in terms of governance is also about doing the right thing. We have things in terms of remuneration and benefits about equal work for equal pay, for example, something that we really do drive to say we don't want to have, things like gender pay gaps, which the world is battling with. And we're constantly checking ourselves on those things to say, checking ourselves with the market, checking, external parity. We do internal parity exercises as well to say people in the same role or similar roles, they can't be too far apart in terms of what we reward. So very big on fairness in organizations, because we have seen many examples externally of where things can go really pear-shaped there. But I think we have ways within HR, where we look at those things and we question ourselves to say, consciously, are we doing the right thing for our people? And right now we can absolutely say we are. So we use data a lot. We are very big on evidence-based decision making. So on the people side, we have obviously everybody's data, everything from where they worked before, how old they are, what generation they are, what role they are in. So we look at and slice and dice the data in so many ways to say, are what we're doing, are our HR policies relevant? So we know, for example, that we're mostly 2/3 of our workforce is female. So we look at those things to say 2/3 of our, I think more than half of our workforce is millennials. So we will look at those things to say, what are millennials looking for? Are we delivering according to the expectations, or are we being irrelevant because, maybe we're still, and I know we're not, but, we don't want people say, your policies are relevant for baby boomers, for example. So we do look at those things to say, our age groups, our gender, and everything else that people are, the psychographics to say, are they relevant to where we are today and to what our people need? And remember, we also do a lot of surveys with staff to say, what do you want? What is out there? Is there anything out there that we are missing? Do we have blind spots? And, we do have quite a receptive senior leadership and board who are quite willing to, very open-minded with whatever new initiatives or new proposals that we want to bring in to say, we think we want to introduce this initiative or that benefits staff. So we're in a very lucky space that we're supported like that. No, look, we are living in interesting times. We are living in a world of work now which has 5 generations, Soon the Gen Alphas are going to join the working world and they are going to completely turn things around. As much as Gen Z, every generation has its own quirkiness or things. I don't really like generalizations. But I think to a large extent, some of them are true. So for example, for Gen Z, I love them. And I also know a lot of people love to hate them. But I interact a lot with Gen Zs and I do love them because I feel like they bring interesting new perceptions and challenges to the workplace In my generation, I'm Generation X, we were very much taught and accepted whatever we found at work. We found the world of work that says, you come in 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, end of story, no questions asked. And in fact, we were told that you leave your problems at the door, like nobody wants to know. So we now know, 2026, that there is no such, to me, as they come into work, they come in their fullness. They come in with their issues. They come in which is why we go big on wellness, and we want to assist staff. We want to assist their families. We want, because a person is whole. We're never individual. I think what I see with the Gen Zs is there is impatience. I often say, and I do a lot of career guidance with Gen Zs, to say some things you can't fast track. You can't fast track the fact that you must do the time to gain the experience so that you go through the different seasons. You can't come in today and tomorrow or next year want to be CEO. You literally must have gone through various seasons that build you, So my big thing with them is just have the patience, stay the course, have the tenacity, something that seems to be in very short supply with Gen Z, but I love them to bits. And then you have the millennials with their own as well, to say, everybody, obviously at that age, you are almost at the height of where the bills are hitting you. People are getting married, people are having kids, people are buying houses and cars. So there is, again, the impatience to say, I just want to be earning the big bucks, and now, and the big bucks will come. Just stay the course, do the work, get the experience, and the experience is not always having to go in front of the class, Then there's the baby boomers who, I'm going to skip my generation for now, but there's the baby boomers who, I think a lot of them are towards the end of their careers, but mostly stuck in their ways. They're not adopting to a lot of the things that are happening today. As you know, we are going big on AI and AI adoption in the organization. So we find it a little bit slower with them, because these are people, if you can imagine, have more than 30 years, 40 years working, and their ways of work have worked for them to get there. So it's very hard to undo that. I think we're dealing with proper change management challenges there. And then there's a Gen X who are kind of a mix between, the different generations, who are young at heart sometimes more baby boomer, sometimes more millennial. But yeah, we're living in interesting times. Sure, that's anybody's guess, eh? I mean, we need a crystal ball for that kind of answer. And I think it's going to depend a lot on the industry you're in, the company you're in, the work that you do. I think we're going to see a lot more flexibility in terms of gig workers coming in, where people like to say, you know what, I'll give PPS 10 hours a day, and then 10 hours I'm going to do something else, and then 5 hours or half a day I'm going to do my giving back work, I'm going to do my part-time lecturing. I think we'll see less and less full-time employment like we have today in its current form. And even in full-time employment, I think we're going to start seeing very much hyper-personalized type packages, to say, if I'm to me, actually, I'd rather have 30 days leave and lesser something else. I think we're going to see much more flexibility there. We will definitely see much more flexibility in terms of work from home, hybrid options, people wanting to go and work from another country for 6 months, they follow the sun type people. And I think talent is going to win. Talent has already won. Many years ago, we used to speak about the war for talent. I can tell you now, talent has won. Talented people are able, even today, tell companies what they want. So companies almost need to fit into, this is me. If you want me, please understand that I'm going to be working 6 months here, 6 months elsewhere. I have to have this flexibility, works for me and my lifestyle. Yeah, so I think the power is going to be much more on employees than it is today. The one is to treat every day as an interview. To treat every day as an interview. So, all of us obviously prepare ourselves, wear the suit, prepare how we're going to show up, how I look, what am I going to say. I have now come to learn many years later that every day in everything that I do, I'm being interviewed. Not formally, obviously, but the fact that every day, you attend meetings, you have a deadline, you are submitting a report. Treat that report as that exam that you hated at school, and look at it and say, am I proud that I'm about to press send on this report? Read it like you are going to be marked on it, because somebody is marking you on it, and somebody is making a decision about your career and your future based on that submission. Because if now the narrative, because that builds the narrative about yourself, and I often tell people that the narrative about you is dependent on you. And on you is not a once-off thing. It's an everyday event to say, do you show up, one, or not? Yes, no. How do you show up? Do you have good energy? Do you have a good vibe about you? Or do people see you and say, oh my goodness, people just get tired looking at you and listening to you? When you submit things, is it something that's going to be corrected by somebody and somebody, because it means then some other people are doing your work, and soon they'll get tired of it, and soon people are gonna think, does Tumi belong here? We're always correcting her things. She's never here. We are tired. We're always picking up her slack. Don't be that girl. Don't be that guy. So please, I think, understand that every day, everything that you do, your homework, whether you submit it or not, the quality of it, are you getting A's? Are you getting E's? Your personality. Are you a good person? Do you have good energy? Are you and I'm an eternal optimist, and I think I have the right energy all the time. I'm not somebody where people have to worry about, is the boss okay today? Is she safe? can we approach her or not? No, people want to be treated with respect, and I think that's an easy thing that all of us want to do.